This little spider that I've got here is a new knife by SzyMoc, a maker from Poland. This is a knife that I just got today. It's a custom one-off, meaning that it's not a mass-produced line, and I want to test this thing out and review it. So when you ask most people what makes a knife good, I think the first thing that many of them go to is how sharp is it? And it may surprise you to learn that, in fact, how sharp is a knife is largely unimportant, because most people can quite easily put a very good edge on their knife, and even the very best edge will typically not last longer than, well, maybe a week or two of standard use in the kitchen. And so what is going to be useful? Well, that's what I'm about to show you. So there's a lot of variants of ways that you can test performance of knives to see how you like them and to figure out what a knife is like. This is just going to be one example of a common series of tests that I run. The maker is relatively unknown, and despite that, I think that the profile looks really nice. The geometry, overall thinness of the blade is excellent. The fit and finish is really quite spectacular. Check out this fitment here on this little tiny bolster. I'm not sure what you call this metal piece. It's almost like a heirloom type fit, where the handle is wider than the actual rivet of the blade here, leading into the neck of the blade itself. And so this is very nice. Handle feels great. The overall blade is quite light and easy to work with. So how are we going to test this today? I've got 4 things on the board here. I've got an onion. Onion is the great generalist test. We see how the knife moves through the product, and that will tell us how it is ground. Is it too sticky? Is it too thick? Does it get through? Is it pushing the product all over the place and causing us to smash that onions to smithereen? What is it doing? Second up is a potato. I'd like to have a bigger potato so that as we're cutting through it, we can see how the pieces stick together. Is the blade shoving them apart and causing us to spill the potato all over? Or can I cube this thing up into a dice and still have it be whole after I've finished cubing? And this one's kind of small, and so I think this won't be too hard of a test today. So I've got a sweet potato. This is largely considered one of the hardest tests to perform with a knife. So I'm going to be making batons out of this. I'm not going to do a full cube today, no dice. We're going to see how much force does it take to get through this product, and what is the cohesion? Is it shoving pieces aside? Are we seeing a bunch of, as we cut down, is it swerving to one side or the other? So is the knife not ground evenly, and is the knife steering through the product? Those are a couple things we look for on the potato, and in this case today, a sweet potato dice. And then I've got the apple. This one was what we're going to start out with today. This is a classic wedge test. We want to see, as we cut into this, are we hearing cracking? So is the apple being split apart by a wedge force, or is the knife thinly ground such that it slides through and we hear a very soft slide followed by a gentle tap on the cutting board once we hit the bottom? So let's start off. So generally pretty good. We've got a bit of just kind of sticking as we go through from the apple seizing to the side of the blade. It's pretty typical just because there's a lot of water content here. So I'm pushing through, and I'm going very slowly just so that we don't worry about water sticking here, and we kind of see it all slides through at once as the water comes unstuck further up the blade. You'll notice that it's definitely not cracking. We're not seeing a wedging issue, and so that's a positive result to see. Next up, onion. Oh, this moves very nicely through the product. So I'm feeling hardly any resistance, and we're now getting into the higher portions of the knife. It's only on the way back up that I'm feeling a little bit, and I'm going kind of slow here just because I'm trying to pay attention to the way that this knife feels. See, as I'm coming back up, sometimes it's sticking just a little bit, as it feels like the onion is surprised to learn that it's been divided here, and as we come back up, it's closing back in on the knife. That is a very, very nice result. Let's see how the horizontals do. Getting through most of the onion, we're able to get back to about this portion. Let's now see the final cuts, and the dice comes off. We're seeing a pretty nice result. I don't have the perfect cutting technique, and so this isn't going to be an idealized dice. But I think that as far as performance goes, we've learned quite a lot. We're seeing that this is doing quite well on the onion test. All right, let me get this cleaned up. All right, next up, we've got this potato. I'm gonna cube it really quickly just to take off the ends so that we're dealing with an even product. So now we've got a very small, but we've got flat surfaces on each side, potato, and we're going to see, does this steer as I push through it? So again, this is pretty small. I'm not expecting anything earth-shattering to happen here, but I'm not feeling a ton of steering. You'll have to look on camera and see how it actually appears. Let's do the second series of cuts. We'll just get 2 in here. Okay, and then turn it sideways and perform the dice. So this moves really nicely through the product. I am very pleasantly surprised by the lack of force that it takes to get through. This being as small of a potato as it is, we're not seeing the full force that we are going to see on the sweet potato. So let's get to that. Sweet potato, same deal. Okay, we have a squared off sweet potato, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but this time we're gonna stick to baton. Be paying attention to where my point of the knife goes. Is it steering, meaning that as I'm going down, it's swerving off to the side and we're not making straight cuts? Or is it going straight down, and how much force does it take to get through this very dense product? So kind of orient this toward the camera. And it does take a bit of force to get through. We're not hearing cracking or wedging, which is nice. And then I'm not gonna have an even cut on this end, so I'm just gonna remove that. Let's flip over and try for the baton. So for as much force as this is taking to get through, it's actually not as bad as it could be. I don't have another knife to compare to right on video, but frequently with a thick ground knife, you will hear cracking like crazy going on. So a couple final thoughts on this knife now that we've seen it in action. We're not seeing a lot of really extreme limitations for this knife. There are limitations, right? It's not perfectly silent as we go through the apple. Not seeing that it glides through the sweet potato like it were butter. This is a real knife. These are real products. And so we're satisfied to see that there are limitations. But we aren't seeing wedging as an issue. We're not seeing stereostiction as something that is going to make it harder to use this knife. And overall, the fit and finish of this thing is really nice. You see, we've got these chamfered corners here on the neck and on the choil of the knife. It is beautifully tapered from the spine to the tip. So it's got great taper, great geometry, great fit and finish. It is unremarkable in terms of the profile, which is exactly what you're looking for. You want something that performs well, that doesn't scream for attention, and then in the details is really where you see the beauty of a performer like this. So I think this is a great knife. I think that this passes the initial impressions. I'm excited to keep using this.